Welcome back everyone, NMeade here. Welcome to the newest time trial series to the channel, Kart Wii's most iconic world records. I've been playing this game on and off since the game's release in 2008, for over 10 years now. I started off as a casual player, and quickly became a competitive player, mostly in time trials. That's where my love has always been since 2008. For over 10 years now, I've been watching the progression of all the world records on all 32 Nintendo tracks. There has been insane strategy changes, shortcuts, groundbreaking glitches that have completely revamped the landscape of almost all of these tracks. And most of the player base these days for this game, coming into 2019 now, are mostly newer players that started maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'm one of the very few people in the community who have been around since 2008 and heavily time trial since 2008, and can speak to a lot of the groundbreaking improvements and some of these most iconic world records through its time. And it is my hope with this series that I can be very informative and to explain why some of these times are iconic, and also hit some of the nostalgic heartstrings with some of the older people in the community who remember these times when they were set back in the day. So let's get started. Today, we'll be going over a world record set in early 2009. But this isn't any ordinary world record. This world record was set with a kart. And for people who either never played the game, or you played it very casually as a kid when you were young, you didn't play the game from that point on, bikes heavily dominate karts in this game. In fact, only 7 out of 32 tracks started out being kart dominant in the world record scene. And 6 of those tracks would swap over to be bike dominant before the month of April 2008 ended. And funnily enough, on DK Mountain, bikes wouldn't have been dominant over cars until the end of May 2008, a month later. Today, we'll be reviewing Japanese player Biohazard's DK Mountain world record with a kart of a time of 2:09.110 set on February 6, 2009. When this record was set, many people, including myself back then, completely lost it. It was practically 10 months since the game's release, and even at that point, many of us thought for sure that karts would never make it onto the world record scene ever again, that bikes were completely dominant for the rest of this game's time. And personally for me, I remember being so amazed hearing this on the forums that I quickly downloaded the Ghost on my own Wii and I began to watch it. And at least from my perspective back then, it looked to me that this track in particular was completely made for karts. And I think this is not only one of the most iconic world records set in this game, but one of the most innovative. Back then, as I mentioned before, it was only 10 months since the game's release, and kart-only time trials being competitive between other players wasn't really popularized to my knowledge, at least right now, until maybe 2010 or 2011, with the likes of kart memes like Lord Nate back in the day. And although the image quality isn't that great, I just figured I would share this. If you look at the worldwide top 10 from when the previous world record was set before Biohazard's time, Biohazard was nowhere to be seen on this top 10. Nowhere at all. Japanese player Nabe's 2:09.198 world record with Daisy and the mock bike would stand for 56 days, which honestly back in 2008 was actually quite a long time, because in 2008 it seemed like literally every single day at least a couple of world records would be set on most tracks. But then Biohazard would come on February 6, 2009 with his kart world record with Daisy and the Wild Wing with a time of 2:09.110. So, I'm going to give a brief explanation as to why the kart worked at this very specific time in early 2009 to get the world record. I'm going to explain the things that the bike strategy wouldn't do and why the kart strategies that Biohazard used at the time would actually work to end up beating the world record here. So at this time in early 2009, players who would opt for the Daisy and the mock bike didn't know a few things. They didn't know the beginning manual turbo up the hill on each lap. They didn't know the full wheelie chain strategy after the cannon, where you wrap around the wall, you have a wheelie going down the slopes and the hills and everything, right before the grass transition, which saves a lot of time. Since they don't do that, they would use the mushroom at the middle of the downward descent of the mountain. And I'll explain why that's very bad in just a second. As you can see here through the replay, Nabe would also do a double hop on this chasm cut. And looking back at it now, I can sort of laugh at it because it may not seem like it much, but we only do 1 hop today. And the reason why I'm laughing at it is because doing 2 hops on this is not only slower, but it's a lot harder. I remember being a very new time trialer in 2008, trying to mimic this strat. And most of the time, I'll either have my second hop land too early and I'll just drive off, or I'll be too fast and hop too late and I'll fall right into the abyss. Very inefficient, very slow. And then at the very end, since there's no shroom to use, Daisy was very inefficient at gaining any sort of acceleration combined with all the bounces of this wavy bridge at the end, up until gaining some sort of speed with the first main turbos around the first bend. Now here's where the kart shines in. The kart obviously cannot wheelie, so its base speed is very, very slow compared to most bikes when they're in the wheelie. Obvious. So, karts can keep up with bikes on tracks if they can do a lot of mini turbos. And with karts in this game, you can have blue mini turbos, which are very brief, but also orange mini turbos, which are extended, and they extend your boost speed for a longer period of time. Biohazard was very innovative with its strats, using 2 orange mini turbos, and also at the very end using the shroom to minimize the bounces, which I think, combined with all these factors, made it the most opportune time for Biohazard to beat the Daisy Mach time with the Wild Wing. Unfortunately, Nabe's old 209.198 ghost data is nowhere to be found. That's the world record before Biohazard would have his world record. However, I luckily stumbled across his 208.911, and that's one of Nabe's very first 208 times. And I did a multi-ghost of the 2 of them from Biohazard's perspective, because if you were to do it from Nabe's perspective, you wouldn't see Biohazard at all, unfortunately. It may be hard to tell, but you can definitely see what I mean at the very end of each lap, where Nabe slowly accelerates and bounces on the bridge, up until honestly he gets past the hill on laps 2 and 3. Whereas Biohazard utilizes an orange main turbo into the bridge, he delays to utilize the entire boost on the main turbo, which is very smart of him back then, and then he uses his shroom and goes right back almost up to speed with Nabe. There is minimal downtime where Biohazard isn't in some form of a boost, either from main turbos or shrooms, which helps him keep up with Nabe. Sadly though, Biohazard would only hold the world record here for 3 days with this time, until February 9th, 2009, where Nabe beat Biohazard back with Daisy Mach bike once more of 209.026. This would be the last time a kart was the fastest on DK Mountain. Now with all these explanations out of the way, I'll let Biohazard's run play in its entirety. Cueing nostalgia in 3, 2, 1. This video was a ton of fun to make, and I had a ton of nostalgia reminiscing on this iconic world record in this game. I really hope you all enjoyed this video and liked the idea of this new series. And I really ultimately feel that both newer and older players in the community can appreciate this type of series. And even for people who either never played this game or only played it very casually, very briefly when they were young, can find this to be informative and also entertaining. So if you liked the video, the idea of this video series, and you want to continue to see more content like this on my channel, please do consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. This really helps out the growth of the channel and reaching the content to a lot more viewers. And once more, I thank you all so much for all of your constant support and the response the channel has been getting with these new time trial series coming to the channel. Thank you all once more, and I'll see you all in the next video.